There are people working 12 hours a day, earning less than someone working 2. This is not unfair. It's structural. Because in modern economies, you are not paid for effort. You are paid for leverage. And most people don't even know what that means. Part 1: The Myth of Hard Work. For most of your life, you were taught a simple equation. Hard work equals success. This comes from an industrial model of labor, where output was directly tied to hours worked. But that model is outdated. Today, two people can work equally hard and produce radically different outcomes. Why? Because effort is linear. Wealth is exponential. And the bridge between the two is leverage. From a young age, you're taught a moral equation. Hard work equals reward. This idea is not economic. It's philosophical. Thinkers like Max Weber described this as the Protestant work ethic. The belief that labor is not just necessary, but morally virtuous. But modern economies don't reward virtue. They reward output and scale. Even Karl Marx observed that labor alone does not determine value. Systems of ownership do. So the first illusion is this. You think you're being evaluated morally, when in reality, you're being evaluated structurally. Part 2: Intelligence is not a wealth variable. Psychology makes this even clearer. Research by Angela Duckworth shows that grit, not IQ, is a better predictor of long-term achievement. But even grit has limits. Because persistence only matters if it's applied in the right system. High intelligence often creates a paradox. You see more risks. You overanalyze decisions. You delay action. This aligns with findings from Daniel Kahneman, that human decision-making is not purely rational, but shaped by cognitive biases like loss aversion, overconfidence in knowledge, risk sensitivity. So intelligence doesn't fail you. It misleads you into optimizing the wrong variables. Part 3: Time, Desire, and Delayed Gratification. One of the most replicated findings in psychology comes from the work of Walter Mischel. The marshmallow experiment. The ability to delay gratification predicts long-term success. But philosophy goes deeper. Friedrich Nietzsche argued that human greatness comes from the ability to endure discomfort in pursuit of a future self. Wealth operates on the same principle. It requires sacrificing present consumption, tolerating uncertainty, thinking in decades, not days. But biologically, your brain is optimized for survival, not for compounding capital. So you default to immediate rewards, visible outcomes, short-term security. And that quietly destroys long-term wealth. Part 4: Leverage as a philosophical shift. Leverage is the ability to produce disproportionate output from input. There are only a few real forms of it. Labor leverage, managing people. Capital leverage, using money to make money. Code leverage, software that scales infinitely. Media leverage, content that reaches millions. Leverage is not just a financial concept. It's a philosophical shift in how you relate to effort. Aristotle distinguished between activities done for necessity and activities done for higher-order outcomes. Most people live in necessity, trading time for survival. Leverage moves you out of that. It allows output to become scalable, repeatable, independent of your direct input. This is why systems dominate individuals. Companies like Amazon don't rely on effort. They rely on infrastructure. Platforms like YouTube don't rely on hours worked. They rely on distribution at scale. Leverage is what turns effort into asymmetry. Part 5: the psychological resistance to leverage. Why most people never use leverage? Because leverage requires uncertainty, delayed rewards, and initial asymmetry. Psychologically, humans resist all three. This ties back to loss aversion, risk avoidance, need for stability. So instead, people choose predictable effort, predictable income, even if it caps their upside forever. In other words, people don't avoid leverage because they don't understand it. They avoid it because it feels uncomfortable. Part 6, The Real Divide, Labor versus Ownership. At the deepest level, wealth is not about effort. It's about position within a system. As Karl Marx described, the fundamental divide is between those who sell labor and those who own the means of production. But in the modern world, the means of production has evolved. It's no longer factories. It's platforms, code, capital, and distribution. Case study, NVIDIA. Most people think NVIDIA makes graphics cards. That's outdated. NVIDIA controls something much more powerful. The infrastructure behind artificial intelligence. Every major AI system, from startups to global tech companies, depends on NVIDIA's GPUs. Which means they are not just participating in the AI boom. They are positioned beneath it. Layer 1, Intellectual Leverage. NVIDIA doesn't compete on labor. It competes on design and architecture. A small number of highly specialized engineers create chips that power entire industries. This is extreme leverage. A few people, global impact. Layer 2, Ecosystem Lock-in. Beyond hardware, NVIDIA built CUDA, a software ecosystem developers rely on. Once companies build on it, switching becomes costly and inefficient. This creates what economists call high switching costs. And psychologically, this reinforces status quo bias. As Daniel Kahneman showed, people prefer to stick with existing systems, even if better alternatives exist. Layer 3, Invisible Dependency. Now look at the structure. AI companies build models. Startups build products. Users interact with applications. But underneath all of it is NVIDIA. This is modern power. Not visible. Not loud. But structurally unavoidable. What this actually means: an engineer designing NVIDIA systems creates more economic value than thousands of workers executing tasks downstream. Not because they work harder, but because they are positioned at a point of maximum leverage. Brain Part 7, Why most people never transition. So why don't more people move toward leverage? Because psychologically, it requires rejecting deeply ingrained beliefs. Max Weber showed that work is tied to identity and morality. Friedrich Nietzsche argued that most people avoid transformation because it demands discomfort. And modern psychology confirms humans are biased toward stability, predictability, social conformity. Leverage offers none of these at the start. So people stay where they are. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they are optimized for survival, not scale. Hard work is not the problem. It's just insufficient. Because in a world driven by systems, effort without leverage will always remain local, while leverage scales globally. The production of too many useful things results in too many useless people. Karl Marx.